Hello, everyone, and thanks for listening to the Quality Hub, Chatting with ISO Experts. I'm your host, Xavier Francis, and I'm here with Scott Dawson, President at Core Business Solutions. Glad you could be here again, Scott.
X, thank you very much for having me back.
Absolutely. And Happy New Year, everybody. It's 2024. Can you believe it? Man, 2023 blew by. I hope you've all had a great holiday season. And here at the Quality Hub, we're going to be doing all sorts of new things and have all sorts of things planned for 2024. We're going to start with, after this 2 episodes, we're going to start with a What Is series, which takes sort of a newbie look at some different ISO standards and things like that. And then we're going to break into some deep dives into specific clauses of the actual ISO 9001 standard and breaking it down over several episodes per clause. We're going to have an interview with a quality manager, and we'll also be talking about ISO and government contracting and cybersecurity. So quite a bit coming up in 2024. And in the spirit of that new year, today we're going to talk about taking inventory of your business moving into 2024. And Scott's been on the podcast numerous times, so you know his history. If you don't, go back and check out some of his previous podcasts. And let's just dive into this. Hey, Scott, what are your thoughts to start with heading into a new year?
Yeah, X, I really appreciate talking about this. It's one of the things that gets me excited every year.
Awesome.
Because I feel like it's to some degree a fresh start.
Yeah.
Ideas that you had last year, some of them worked, some of them didn't. You can kind of shut some things down, start some new things,
right.
Get a fresh look at the year. And as I think about annual planning, which this is the time of year we do our annual planning, I'm always thinking about priorities because there's going to be so many things that are pulling at our time.
Absolutely.
And our attention. And we need to be able to focus as a team, company-wide, on a few things so we get a few things done. If we're not focused, we don't get anything done.
No, absolutely.
So that's really what I see this whole process as about. And we'll talk more about how we do that. But whether a company has a July start to their year or an October start to their year, I've heard of March starts to the year. For us, it's January. It doesn't really matter when it is. Once a year is good to stop and think and re-communicate what the priorities are for the organization. And communicating not just to employees, which is absolutely key.
It is.
But customers and other stakeholders who need to know where your priorities might be and how things might change that affect them.
If you have a board,
as well.
You really kind of
if you have a board
what's going on?
or other types of folks who have interest in the business. So the way we set priorities is we generally start with a process that I call start, stop, continue. I don't think I made this up. I think it's a common practice. So the questions we start asking our managers toward the end of the year is, what do we want to start doing? So new things that we might want to start working on. What do we want to stop doing? So there may be things we want to cancel or clean up some waste, or
maybe they're not successful.
Exactly right. And what do we want to continue doing because they're got good traction or they've been working. So start, stop, continue is a way to kind of get people's thoughts, thinking about future, thinking about priorities. And we start all of that conversation with our management team. We involve all of our managers in the fourth quarter of the year. So we worked on this last quarter and got everyone thinking about the new year and what our focus ought to be.
Breaking that down, I know you said you probably didn't come up with it, but breaking that down into 3 things is a really interesting way of getting started. I think some people might look at this and go, oh, man, I got to look at what I'm going to do next year. Where, that's a good place to start.
Yeah. Well, it's a way to get people involved. It doesn't require a lot of technical expertise or even business knowledge.
Yeah.
Because from their perspective, in their job, in their department, what are things we want to stop, start, or continue?
Yeah.
The other thing that we think about is based on, a quality adage. What gets measured gets managed. So if I just want to bring focus to something, I'll usually set up some kind of a reporting process or a KPI or a data chart or an agenda item where I'm getting, feedback.
Right.
But if I'm not measuring it, if I don't plan to measure, and whether that's numeric or not numeric, I guess I'm not too hung up on that. But if you don't plan that you're going to measure something, it's going to be hard to know what's happening. So you're not going to be able to manage it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
you should assume no one's focused on it if you're not hearing anything
Right.
in terms of updates and things. So we do a lot of work after we kind of sort through the start, stop, continue process. We'll then start thinking about goals, specific goals. Of course, that flows from financial goals. So every year, of course, every company has certain financial goals, top line, bottom line, costs, management, where you want to see some expansion, where you expect things to maybe contract a bit. But it's generally, I think every business owner is used to setting some kind of a financial plan for the year. But then we want to break that down into manageable responsibilities so that the things that we need to get done to hit those financial goals get done.
Right.
So what gets measured gets managed. So it kind of brings us from just managing the financial results, which people have called those lagging indicators, which means by the time you see the result, it's too late to do anything about it. Last quarter's results.
You're reactive.
You can look back, you can be happy, you can be sad, but you can't do anything about it. So how do you get ahead of it? Well, you got to look at the things you need to do to drive financial performance. So for us, that's where our KPIs and other measures start to flow. We do communicate to our management team and our employees what our financial goals are. But no one person, no one department can impact the whole financial plan.
Right.
I mean, I suppose I can in my role, but even I don't have all the control to deal with everything that it's going to take to hit our financial goal. And then you have things that are out of your control.
Yep.
In the market or with your customers or industry generally.
COVID.
Exactly. So, but you try to get your arms around the things that you can do, that you want to do, that you need to do to hit your financial goals. So we do that by starting with a list of assumptions. What do we assume this year is going to entail? What do we assume about the economy? What do we assume is going to happen with customers or a certain customer segment?
Right.
What do we assume is going to happen with the labor market if that's something we're going to be hiring a lot or something? What are we thinking that we can keep our eyes on through the year to see if what we were thinking at the beginning of the year is actually coming about or not coming about? Generally, our assumptions are based on things we can't control.
Right.
But we want to keep our eye on, and we write them down. And then every quarter in our quarterly reviews, we kind of revisit the assumptions. Gee, were we spot on with this one? Were we a little off? Were we way off? Do we need to adjust our assumptions as the year goes on? Just to keep everyone thinking about the aspects of business that can impact your result that you don't want to just be blind to.
Right.
You want to pay attention to these things. So assumptions, and then we step to issues next. So external and internal issues. What are the dynamics of our business or our market that we're going to have to face? So let's say, in our business, we're in the standards business. Let's say a standard is going to update. Is it going to be a major update? Is it going to be a minor update? Are we going to have to do new training for our customers? Do we have to, change how we're doing certain things? Do we need to update our documentation, whatever it needs to be? So that'd be an issue we would put on our list, something that's going to drive, behavior or a project internally. That would be kind of an external issue. Internal issue might be, we thought we were going to start working more in the office. It hasn't really panned out that way. We're going to talk more about that remote work kind of thing.
Right.
But for us, we've settled into more of a remote work model. That's an issue. I'm not saying it's good or bad. It just is. So how does that come to bear on how we plan our next year?
Yeah.
So we write these down. And then finally is concerns. So concerns, otherwise known as risks. What are the things we need to specifically plan for that could be detrimental or hold us back? What are the potential impacts of those things? How severe would it be? How big of an issue would it be for us? And does it need to be at the top of our thinking, or can it be something we just keep our eye on?
Mm-hmm.
So I think the assumptions, the issues, and the concerns is just how we write down our thought process as we get started. That all leads into the discussion about KPIs.
Right.
So for us, KPIs are generally non-financial things that ultimately affect finances. So
you're kind of getting focused on this is what makes us money, not the money itself.
yeah, exactly right. And you're trying to get ahead of it a bit. So you might have things like, how many calls on customers do we want to have every month?
Mm-hmm.
How many did we have last year? Do we want to make an adjustment? Do we need more resources? Should we change our process?
Mm-hmm.
Do we need to change our incentive plan,
Right.
to make sure we're doing that activity on a frequency that we think is going to ultimately lead, in that case, to sales?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's something around helping customers when they have difficulty staying on a schedule. So everyone's busy. People sign up to go through a consulting program. They don't always stay on schedule.
Mm-hmm.
So how many of our projects stay on schedule? How many of them don't? That could be a good KPI for us to keep our eyes on. And if they're not, on schedule, what's the steps we're taking to try to remediate the issue or help our customers through that?
That might lock up consultants and how much they can take.
Exactly right.
Additional.
And it can affect our customers. Sometimes those customers don't know they're behind schedule.
Mm.
So there's that. But this goes throughout all of our departments. We think through from our corporate company KPIs to departmental goals and KPIs. And on the departmental level, we do two things. Well, three things. One is we have each department write, this is new this year, a department mission statement.
Okay.
We're getting big enough to where we don't all know what we're each doing or what the focus for certain groups are within the organization. Like we have a group called Program Development, of which you're a part.
Yes.
Other than shooting really cool videos, what else do they do? And why do they do it? And what are we trying to accomplish? So creating a mission statement isn't so much a motivational thing. I suppose it might be. But it also helps others to know what that department's really focused on. And we do that throughout. So it's mission statement, KPIs, usually 2, 3, or 4. We don't try to go crazy with them. And then projects and initiatives that are supposed to improve the KPI result. So once a quarter, we publish these. Every department publishes them. And then I take one other step, and I personally meet with each department once a quarter for 30 minutes to an hour, go through their mission, KPIs, and initiatives, have them talk to me about what they accomplished, where they ran into obstacles, what's working, what's not working, keeps my ear to the ground, doesn't take that much time. By the way, if you're a business owner listening, let your manager set the appointment on your calendar, and you don't have to worry about setting these meetings up. Let them be responsible for it. I just tell them, first 2 weeks in April, get a calendar appointment on so we can have a meeting. And that kind of gives everybody a chance to report out what's going on. They can brag about what they've accomplished. They can share frustrations that they're running into. And in a week or two, I can know generally what's going on throughout the organization, and we can adjust as the year goes on.
And that really shows engagement from you.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm part of these meetings for PD, and it's one of those things where it's like, okay, Scott's coming in, but it's not just the nice approach you have is it's not like, what have you gotten done? It's not that. You're very open. You're very curious to know what we're doing, where we've struggled.
Yeah.
We talk, well, last quarter we were trying to do this. It was really successful. This other thing, it's more complicated than we thought getting into it, and then we can adjust if need to be. And that gives you a sense, okay, we're not going to have as much, or we're going to have more productivity from this team and go from there. And it really is great.
One thing I always close those meetings with is, what help do you need in the next quarter?
Yep.
Now, maybe that's something I can do. Maybe I can organize somebody else to help.
Yep.
Maybe it's resources. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's just information.
Yeah.
They don't, maybe things aren't clear. But it's just a dialogue, and it's a part of the process that, like you say, keeps everyone engaged, keeps me plugged in. That way, when I'm in my, I don't know, ivory tower is probably not the way to say it because you've seen my office. It's not much
It's
of an
definitely
ivory.
not an ivory tower.
It's not an ivory tower.
But your big fish tank's
My
not
fish
back
tank.
in there yet.
Exactly. But as I am thinking more long term, I'm aware of what's really happening, boots on the ground, and where everyone is at any given time, and where we might need to adjust. So, based on department goals, so we've talked about financial objectives, corporate KPIs, departmental KPIs. Then we get to the individual level. Twice a year, we go through our performance planning and review. As we prepare for that, each employee is asked to set goals for the coming 6 months. Where are those goals going to come from? They're not just personal goals. We want every employee to be thinking about, what are the goals my department has? What are the goals the company has? How can I help? Where do I fit? So that at least some of their personal goals are set to support what's going on a broader level. That way we all have goals and priorities aligned toward the same objectives. It doesn't always work perfectly. In fact, it never works perfectly, but at least we're all going in the same direction, and we all are pulling, the oars, across the river, if that's what we're trying to get.
Well, I would take an employee perspective on that too. Sometimes if we know what we're looking to do, where we can prepare and maybe, okay, we're looking to do X, Y, Z, I should probably get some training on this, take a course on this, start researching it, which you give us some time to do, in our day-to-day. And that helps us now when actually we want to implement it. We're more prepared than we would be like, okay, this quarter we're going to have you do this. I have no clue what that means. Like probably some of our customers have felt like, I have to be ISO certified. What does that mean? You can prepare and be a little more aware.
Well, and I also try to engage everybody's talent and brains and creative juices in helping us get where we want to go. I'm not smart enough to figure out what everybody should do. I try to be smart. I'm just not that smart.
I don't think anybody is.
But so I try to set up a process that involves the whole company in kind of aligning our focus, once a year.
And the way that it drills down really helps to set goals for employees and stuff, where you're looking at it, management, upper management, senior leadership here, gets involved, kind of gets the overall KPIs, what we want. How does that work for each team? How does that work for each individual? And it gets everybody focused on the goal, on what the company's goals are.
Well, we also use this information as quality system records when the auditor wants to know, how do you guys determine the context of the organization? What's your planning process overall? How do you measure performance? How do you keep management informed? How do you communicate to your employees? We can point to all these things that we do, so we don't have to go create something else to show the auditor, which is not what we encourage our clients to do.
Right.
We try not to do things just for the auditor.
Right.
We try to utilize processes we have in place to demonstrate, our use of the quality management system. So for each company, think about how you would normally want to go through annual planning and roll that right into your QMS, and your auditor will appreciate what you did, and you can move on and not have to generate yet one more thing just to show the auditor.
Well, Scott, I think we're gonna have to break here today on that one, and we'll move forward on some more topics next week. Really appreciate you being here.
Look forward to it, X.
Awesome. And thank everyone here that's listened to our podcast today. We hope it's been informative and you've learned a lot. If you're looking for more information about Core Business Solutions and how we can help you with ISO certification or cybersecurity, maybe even some customized training, please email us at info@thecoresolution.com. And if you want to visit our website, that's www.thecoresolution.com. And if you haven't already followed us on your favorite podcast platform, be sure to do so. That way you won't miss the next Quality Hub podcast when it's released next week. Have a great day, everyone.